It's organic sulfur.
Organic sulfur.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah.
Uh, I did click live, so we are live on the replay, but nobody's here yet. Let me,
Okay.
I'll tag you. Let me tag you. How about
Yep.
that? And that way I can double check and make sure we're connected. MSM what is it called? Organic,
Organic sulfur.
organic sulfur.
Yeah, and it tastes like shit.
Isn't that the way that the good things work? You know,
Yes,
like I'm thinking,
definitely.
I can't even, most days I couldn't even think about eating meat if it was a very little quantity. Like, I mean, if I
Mm.
go to the Mexican restaurant, I order tacos with avocado, lettuce, tomato, cheese, Uh,
Yeah.
but hang on, let me pull this back up. Okay. Um, yeah, but I'm like going, okay, I'm juicing and drinking herbal tea, but why can't one of these things taste like a big cheeseburger? You know, like
Or
well,
bacon.
bacon. I know, a bacon cheeseburger. Why is it that
Yeah.
the greens I'm juicing can't taste that way? No, but I'm
I
kidding.
think because I think the bitter flavor, like we're supposed to have all the flavors.
Yeah,
Anything bitter is really good for you.
yeah, like
Yeah, that.
bitter root
Yeah.
greens. Like
Mm,
polk salad
yeah.
Annie. I never used to eat greens, and when when I started getting into the Ascension thing, which would have been like a lot of us, like say 2014, and I started to unconsciously just had this love affair with turnip greens and
Yeah,
collard
right.
greens, and I'm like cooking them like I know what I'm doing, and man, they taste good. And then I come to find out later why I guess my soul was having me do that was because of the physical transformation that we're going through, or
Mm.
cilantro to remove a calcified pineal gland, or just the different things.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're
Yeah,
talking
I love
about organic sulfur.
organic sulfur.
What does it do, to your knowledge?
It's a detoxifying thing. It
Mm.
helps your body. Um, since I've been taking, I'll give you my experience with it. How should maybe I should do that? So since I've been taking it, I've, my appetite's gone down.
Mm.
So I don't eat as much. I just don't need as much food as I used to because my body is absorbing more of the nutrients of what I am eating. It's detoxified me. I'm well, yeah, I'm more regular. I'll say that.
We're all friends here.
We're all friends here. Well, I think it's an important piece of information, isn't it?
It is
Really.
important. I got to tell you a
Mm,
funny story. I didn't think I'd ever say this on the show, but Morgan has this. I don't know what you call it, but every time I go to the library, that's what I call it.
yeah.
I go to the library every time virtually, like over the past month. Within a minute, she'll call me on the phone.
Yeah. That's
And the next thing,
hilarious.
and I'll be like, I
She
can't talk
knows.
right now, and then she'll be sending me those gifs, like all these
Yeah.
gifs with, but yeah,
To help you go, to give you
just to
inspiration.
needle me. Uh, but what you said about the appetite thing. Now,
Mm.
I've myself experienced it.
Yeah.
In fact, this morning I was thinking about it. And I was like, am I going to just start eating one meal a day? Because that
Mm.
seems to be what's happening. Like one meal a day with a couple of snacks. Like I'm talking
Yeah.
like last night I ate some pistachios. But I've heard a lot of people saying that they can't eat. They just don't
Yeah.
have the appetite. You know.
Yeah. Because I don't think we're supposed to eat 3 meals a day. I
I
think
don't
that's
think.
a big fat
Yeah,
lie.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I've sat in wonder and awe. There's Morgan with her sense of humor.
What did she say?
See?
God,
Oh, you can't see it.
no.
She put up some emojis of
Oh, yeah,
food.
okay.
Uh,
I
so
get it.
what were we talking about? The
One meal a
eating.
day.
Yeah, well, I've watched Morgan do this for years, right? Like when
Mm.
she first came over, I mean, like, I was talking to her last night, and I said because I like to ask her because sometimes she actually forgets, right? And
The
and
eat.
I'll, yeah, and I'll say, hey, did you what you eat today, or did you eat today? She goes, well, let me show you. And the reason she could show me is because half of what she served is what she ate, so the other
Oh,
half was in.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like maybe 200 calories, or and it's not, you know what I mean, it's not like it's
Mm.
just what her body is regulating. and
Yes.
I think that I find myself now, I can't, I could eat an entire pizza easy. And now, if I did, which is very rare, I can maybe eat maybe two pieces, right? And if I
Yes.
do go and eat later, it's because I'm distracting myself, bored, or whatever the case is. Like I had that happen last night. I woke up from one of those you got to lay down and go to sleep things in the middle of the day, right? That
Mm.
everyone's being
Mm.
hit with. And I thought, I woke up, I want to go get some ice cream. So I went to the corner store, I sat in the parking lot, and I started thinking, why are you going to get ice cream? You know?
Yes.
And I just got to the point where I thought, you don't need to do this. And I went back home. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff like that happening. I was
Yeah.
anxious to see when I saw your name, to hear what you feel, because I really hold in a high regard your intuition and your take on things. And
Oh,
I was
good.
just wondering, like in terms of what's going on, what's been going on, like even since February 22nd, when everybody said we stepped into a new world, like what are you
Mm.
feeling? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I've gone on this quest of health,
Hmm.
like we've just been talking about. Like I've been really internal, and I've um, turned away from all the drama that I'm seeing in the world because it's just. I think it got to a point where it was so overwhelming, and the rain that we're having in Sydney, and all the stuff that's going on out there, it was just like it's so overwhelming that I just kind of turned inside to my internal world because that's where I find peace.
Hmm.
And that's what I was craving. I was craving peace, and so I just started to concentrate on myself, on my health, on my mental health, on the messages that I'm receiving, and really starting to listen to my body, and doing that self discovery thing, like connecting, because all the information that I'm receiving from the 3D world is wrong.
Right.
It doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't feel, it's not feeling correct. It's not giving me peace. It's not giving me what I need. So I've said, all right, Claudia, get what you need. Look for what you need. Create it yourself. If you can't get it from the 3D, then you need to create that in your own world. And so that's what I've been concentrating on and doing for myself.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
been amazing. It's been amazing.
Well, it looks amazing on you, uh,
Yeah.
along with the organic sulfur.
Yes.
So,
Listening to my body and connecting into my body,
yeah.
and having a relationship with my body that I've never had before.
Yeah, me too. I can I can
Mm.
say I can say that's where it's headed anyway. I can't say I'm there, but
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I don't think
there's
we all get there, Todd.
so well, and I think you have a good perspective on something that seems to be front and center more and more and more, but in a different way, and that is all the drama and BS
Mm.
that's going on or being presented, the false flag frequencies, or however you
Yeah.
want to describe these things. And I think you and your family have a very good perspective, because I remember talking to you and your daughter. Uh, because if I'm not mistaken, you're in or around Melbourne, aren't you?
We're in Sydney.
You're in Sydney. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you had, when I talked to you both, it was uh, kind of early in the game of when
Mm.
they really started putting restrictions on you. And you were just
Yeah.
talking about the energetics of that, being in a neighborhood with all that going on. and how that was affecting you. So it sounds like you've gotten to a point where you've said, what, that exists, but it's not part of my focus, and I'm just going to do what you're doing and what you've
Yeah.
described. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you always have a choice. And that's what we're here on earth to do, is to learn through our choices. And well, that's what I believe anyway. And so when you feel that pressure and that squash, like this is what happens to me when I feel that squashing feeling from outside and that pressure, I just go, right, done, enough. And I turn away and I do something completely different, because no's a complete sentence. And and we always have a choice.
Yeah.
And so to say, right, you're not satisfying me anymore, this 3D reality isn't giving me what I need, there comes a point where you have to say, you can take two roads. You can go, right, I'm going to go crazy here, or I'm just going to stop listening.
Right.
And so I just stopped listening to it.
Yeah.
And I just said, right, enough's enough. I need my peace. I need to figure out a new way of living my life, so I don't watch TV anymore. I haven't for years, but I really don't watch TV anymore. I'm very, very careful about what I feed my mind. I choose, like I watch your show. I don't just allow information to come in. Like, I'm very selective about what I see and what I consume, because I think your diet, as in food, is important, but also your diet as in what you consume mentally is important too.
Yeah.
And knowing that you have a choice in that you don't have to just scroll through Facebook, or you don't have to just scroll through Instagram and be fed from your news feed, that you actually get a choice. Like, click on that meme that you don't like and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of the people that are in your Facebook feed that are, giving you negativity all the time. Get rid of them. Be discerning. Be ruthless.
Control. Be ruthless. Control your figurative, energetic news feed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Morgan introduced me to that a couple years ago. So I just started, I didn't unfriend people. I just unfollowed those that had certain, and then now I go on my news feed, because I don't really surf on Facebook, but I share, 30, 40, 50 posts a day in Soulogy. And it's so cool because I can gather those memes, say it's 40 memes in a day, I can gather them, I would bet you, in probably, because I do it like in 2 or 3 segments, I could probably bet you I do them in probably less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you said something, so you turned it off. So I think of the energetics of it. Many decisions have been made in our individual lives that were, you could say, new choice points for us as we discovered programming within ourselves and others. And the nice thing to me about this collective energy that we're all susceptible to is that it's one thing to turn something off from discernment, because I'm making that choice that external property or mirror is not, I don't know, not, almost like from an egoic standpoint. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if we make that choice, when we make that choice, the universe will provide us with validation, either through more flow or something that we missed by turning away from that which was trying to show us something in ourselves. So you're seeing a lot of rapid transformation and a lot of humble pie being served.
Yes, so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And I think when we make space in our lives, like when we stop choosing the things that aren't great for us, because you think, oh, it's only a meme, or it's only a post, or it's only Facebook, or it's only food. But when you start to realize, well, actually, I'm consuming those things and they have an
Yeah.
energetic frequency and they're in my life, so they have an effect.
Yeah.
And when you start to have, like, say, okay, I'm going to be discerning with this, and I don't want that frequency in my life anymore, and you start to get rid of them or be ruthless, um, it makes space for the things in your life that are going to be uplifting
Right.
and that are going to match your frequency.
Right.
And your frequency is going to raise, and those little things you're going to start to see make a difference. It might you might think, oh, it's only a meme, but those little steps are rung in the ladder. And so you go up a rung and you go up a rung, and collectively over time that makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's like a drip from a dripping tap. If you put the bucket under that drip, eventually the bucket's going to be full.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like, you go, wow, that was just a drip.
Right.
But over 3 or 4 days, now the bucket's full. And you go, that's an amazing amount of water that's been wasted.
Yeah.
So I've got to fix that drip. I've got to fix that drip, because you're paying for that water. It comes out of your pocket. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
on this journey. I've had these major, major things happen to me in my life that have kind of steered me in the direction that I'm in now. And we've talked about that in previous conversations. And now I'm kind of at a point in my life where these dramas are no longer welcome.
Right.
And so I'm sensitive to it now. And so these little things, it's like, well, I've got to get rid of those little things now. It's like I've honed myself to a point where I'm sensitive to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
And
with you.
and yeah, it makes a difference. It makes a big difference
Yeah,
in
we
the
were
end.
we were talking about that on the first show, and I was
Yeah.
just saying that, for me, I don't talk to people anymore. Which may seem strange because I do this, but
Mm,
this is something else. I mean, it's not just you and me. It's all the people that are, I really see that vortex, and that's been
yeah.
an ongoing thing. And we all have purposes and such. But I used to get, I mean, I'm talking like 30, 40, 50 messages and emails a day.
Yeah, right.
And it used to be I would answer everything. Then it got to be I can answer a few. Then it got
Yeah.
to be I can't answer any.
Yeah.
And it will be the communication, other than Morgan, the communication is minimal. I
Yeah.
mean, it's minimal. And
You're protecting your energy.
well,
Yeah.
because I can see things for what they are, I'm
Mm,
not judging. I'm doing my best not to judge
mhm.
and prejudice myself or superiority. I'm just going, you know what? I don't have to answer. It's okay.
Yeah.
I respect myself and my judgment. And I even wrote a post 2 or 3 days ago, or one of those little memes with the avatar, and I just said, given these times of transformation and the level of self care, respect when people are quiet or respect their privacy because
Yeah.
it's nothing personal, right? Now, you're in a very unique situation as well because you are a matriarch uh,
Mm,
and you have that role. And a lot has been said about masculine and feminine, but one
yeah.
thing that has been talked about, but I feel like energetically has actually occurred. Because a lot of times you get the download and it's a long time or a period of time before it's actually embodied, right? But
Yes.
what I'm talking about, and I think maybe you could speak to this, uh, if you look at a household such as yours, and you look at the world, it's just one big household. There's a
Yeah,
mother.
that's
There's a
true. Yeah.
mother, right? Now, we all know, regardless of the programming and conditioning and era and time, that when the rubber meets the road, if she makes up her mind about something, it
Mm,
alters the entire household.
yeah, it's true.
So, what I've noticed recently, and Morgan's written to this in the past couple of weeks, and I've seen other women exhibiting it, which is and it's not with a charge. It used to be with a charge. You used to hear it. We're here, the feminine's here, and you better hurry up. And that this is going back a few years. So it's been an evolution. But what I'm seeing now is a very powerful, real, natural, kind of relaxed. This is just the way it is now, which is I'm no longer accepting that role that I
Mm,
have to do this because you call me a mother or a wife.
mm,
I am going to be in my full power, and it's altering the household of the earth. Can you
mm.
relate to that? Can you add to
Oh,
anything?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. The mother guilt is dissipating because I think the feminine was controlled through tools like the media, for one, saying you shoulda, woulda, coulda, all these shoulda, woulda, couldas. You need to be like this, you need to be like that, and women were going, oh, I've got to do everything. I've got to be the mother. I've got to be the cleaner. I've got to be the educator. I've got to be the worker. I've got to earn the money. I've got to, raise my children. And we've realized we can't do it all. And so, because you don't have any energy left at the end of the day for yourself. And when you don't have energy for yourself, then you don't have energy for any of the other things either. And
Mm,
so that mother guilt has dissipated. We've sort of started to wake up to the controlling mechanisms, I think. Well, that's what happened for me anyway.
right.
And I was like, oh, this is like growing up in the 80s. I went to a convent school, and we were taught that women could do anything. And it was progressive convent school. It was amazing. And we were taught that women could do anything that a man could do, and that you could have it all. And you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. You just can't. And so I quickly realized that I can be a mother, but I can't be a mother and work full time and have a great family life and have a great career and do everything because I'm one person.
Right.
And so when you start to realize, okay, I was lied to, it's just physically not possible, I'm going to compartmentalize. I'm going to be a mother this section of my life. I'm going to be a career woman this section of my life. And I'm going to do this in this section of my life. Like, I'm not going to push myself to be everything for everyone um, because I'm not happy.
Right.
Not happy.
That's
And
it.
yeah, and I think happiness is so important. It's so important, particularly for families. Because if you can't exhibit happiness to your children, how do they grow up knowing what happiness is? How
Yeah.
do they grow up knowing? Because they learn from watching you. They learn from the feelings they feel in the household when they're being raised. And so the feminine, and as you said, the feminine it just naturally shows the family where it's going. It's like the leader. Well, I mean, both
Yes.
male and female lead, but the feminine is an influencer in the household. And so if she's not exhibiting happiness with her husband and with her children, then there's no happiness.
That's right.
And so and I just never subscribed to that martyrdom, you know, label, like that feeling of martyrdom. Oh, I've got to be a martyr to be everything to everyone. I never subscribed to that.
Yeah.
I knew happiness was important because it's the spice of life. I mean,
Of
what are
course
we
it
here
is.
to do if we're not having fun and we're not happy and smiling and Not that I'm happy all the time, of course, but it's definitely an important part of being alive. And I think being feeling guilty all the time it sucks the life out of you.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
waking up to that. I think the feminine's waking up to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like you can see it if you can
Mm,
see, and we can joke about this, but it's true. I
yeah,
mean, even like in my family, which was a Mexican culture, which is very patriarchal.
yeah,
Um, if let's say my grandmother, who was like ultimately after all the dust settles, you figure out, oh, that was the rock of it all.
yeah, yeah,
So she held her breath. She did her duty. Uh, but again, if she wasn't happy, if
yeah.
she
Everyone
had,
was
yeah,
upset.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you know, like my grandfather was as a kid growing up, he was, and we were rowdy and all that, and he'd scared the hell out of me. But
yeah,
she scared the living hell out of me,
yeah. She had
like
a temper one.
because it would be if you saw something in her, it wasn't just like a something that just happened. It was something that, hey, this has gone on too far. A lot like the energy of the earth. It's almost like you can see Mother Earth or Mother Goddess has come to the earth and said, okay, this shit's gone on long enough,
Yeah,
right? So, and now if you looked at it from the realm the way it was, let's say pre awakening, what could the masculine energy have done that would have created that ripple? Nothing, because it all had been done. It's all played out. So now we have this individual yet collective expansion happening through the individual women like you,
yeah. Right.
especially in a situation like you're in, where you have a household and you have these roles and you've transformed yourself and thereby transformed the roles of everyone. And what is at the basis of all that? You looked at yourself, you went, no more. And now what is
Yeah,
everybody else going to have to do? They're going to have
yeah,
to go, well, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. Or, oh, wow, look at this mirror that she is kind of, showing the way. It makes sense. And I figured
I
you'd,
think. Yeah, I think what happens with the feminine is like I see things in my children and it's reflected back to me. And I think women are really good at seeing things in others that reflect back. And so um, Juliet taught me a lot, having her. She's my eldest. So she was a great teacher for me. And I think, having that ability to notice the subtle changes in your children, and noticing that the things that the family are doing are affecting your children and your love for your children, um, and you see, okay, this is unhealthy, this isn't working. And so you see that reflected in your children. And so you say, okay, something needs to change here.
right,
This is not working for us.
right,
And so being able to see that and being able to say, this, I'm doing something wrong here, or we're doing something wrong here that needs attention. Um, Women can do that, I think. I think men are the ones who are okay, you see something, I'm gonna change it. They're the ones who are like the doers. They're like,
yeah.
okay, we're
She's
gonna,
the dreamer and I'm the dream
yeah,
maker.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I think that's what happens. I think we see the effects of our actions in our children reflected
yeah,
back, and then we go, okay, got to change tact. And then the man goes, all right, I see where you're coming from, let's do this.
yeah.
And that's
Well,
how kind of like that symbiotic
yeah,
relationship works.
yeah. She's like the big domino. And
Mm,
so like if you look at, I saw this meme the other day. This is a joke, but it's a serious thing I'm going to bring up. So it was a woman, and she was giving birth, right? And she's got that look on her face, right? Like, I can't relate, but I've seen it in the births I've been present. And she says, "Oh, now I know what it's like to feel like when a man has a cold." Well, I know that's funny, and I know, but the reality,
Yes.
but the reality is, what that meant to me was that the woman, now I'm talking about this realm at this time,
Yeah.
because obviously the universe is endless, and I'm sure there's been distorted matriarchals and so on. But I'm talking about right now, which is the only thing pertinent to us. So she has a wealth of experience that
Mm-mm.
that the child doesn't have, that the man doesn't have.
Yeah.
Because she's like my grandmother. If I look back, once I said like all the dust settled, a big Mexican family with very strong male characters. When the dust settled, she was the rock, right? You
Yeah.
could see it as plain as day. So that person had a wealth of experience that no one else had. And
Mm.
I think that that's where the value can be seen now. It's not from, let's say, a political figure. Like, I remember I got excited when these women got elected in New Zealand a couple of
Yeah,
years
right.
ago. And what? It's the same old shit, a bigger stick to stir it with now. It's you see it with other female leaders. And I'm not saying that they're not indicators of this transformation where the feminine is coming into balance by taking the role of leadership that they are. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that it's coming from women like you, and
Mm, right.
that to me symbolizes and characterizes what that actually looks like. You're
Mm,
not seeking notoriety.
yeah.
You would rather somebody do it, but when it comes to your individual life, you're going to do it. And because you've
Mm,
got the mother energy, you're affecting the entire spectrum, right?
yeah, right.
So that's how it comes. It comes like a subtle, silent, like thief in the night. Like they say in the Bible, like it
Mm,
comes like that. And
yeah.
and it seems to be really getting some traction now. And I figured you would have a pretty good insight into it.
Yeah, I think it also, part of that is that people are listening to it now
Yeah.
too. They're noticing it. And I think the discernment in the greater society is that that type of femininity that is in the leadership roles, say in New Zealand, isn't the real. It's
Mm.
not. It's women trying to be men.
Right.
It's like a distorted feminine. They're not. It's not the. It's not a totally 100% embodied femininity that's completely accepted.
Mm.
It's like a coat that you put on. Okay, now I'm the president, or I'm the prime minister, or I'm trying to be in the male realm now. You know, whereas no, put on your witch's hat, and your you know get your broomstick out and be a feminine leader.
Oh yeah.
Like don't try and be something that you're not. Be the embodied feminine,
Yeah.
and I think that's what um, women who are in the trenches, who aren't looking for notoriety, and they're raising their children, and they're doing the grunt work. They're
Yeah.
not. That's the nature of the feminine. We're not interested in being patted on the back. I mean, it's nice to be patted on the back every now and then, but that's
Right.
not why you do it. That's not why you're not looking to be on television with a microphone saying, "No, we're going to do this," and we're going to wear our masks when we're in the on the train, and like
Right.
we don't. That's not what we're about. It's not about the feminine. Really, isn't about that.
No.
It's about doing the real grungy work in the trenches that makes a difference.
Well, and I think, like, with the whole metaphor of the giving birth, is
Mm,
if you look at it energetically, um, and you look at the history of the last 6,000 years, um, she's she actually has a higher threshold of pain, if we want to
mm,
put it in human terms, because she has experienced the depths of it. Where
Yes.
he, and I'm speaking energetically, that's obviously manifest in a lot of ways in the physical form of gender, but he doesn't have that experience.
Yeah.
He has a whole different experience, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's a
All right.
perspective there that has not been promoted. It's been suppressed, and now by some force of nature,
Yeah.
be
Right.
bigger than all of us. The saying, like "Mama's home," like it's just a energetic tsunami, but in her style. It's not like
Yeah.
bull rushing the earth. It's happening in these steady,
Yeah.
deliberate increments of personal choices, as you're describing, that starts with the mother and therefore changes the landscape of everything.
Yeah. Well, definitely that type of experience, childbirth changes your priorities. It definitely does. I mean, when I had Julia, I was really scared because I'd heard how much pain I was going to be feeling having a child. So it scared me. And I mean, I didn't like pain. No, I didn't want to feel that pain. Um, but your body, yes, it's painful, but your body know like this. I wish I'd known this when I was having Juliet back then. I mean, and I definitely knew it after I had her and had my second child. Your body knows what it's doing,
Right.
and to trust. Like I think that's what happens is that when you're having a child in childbirth, you learn about your body and you start to learn that you can trust your body
Right.
and that the body knows what to do. And so it's a relationship between trusting that your body is going to be able to handle it and that your body is going to know how to have the baby, and that you're not going to die because there's times during childbirth where you think you're going to die because it's so painful. So it's a learning experience. It teaches you about yourself and about life. And when you come out the other side and you've got this bundle of joy in your arms and you feel this overwhelming rush of love that you've never felt before, like it's something you just didn't know existed, that type of love once you've got your baby in your arms. Um, and you've had that experience and you're a different person. You're a totally different person. You're like, I just went through this harrowing experience and I've come out the other side with this amazing feeling and this
Mm.
amazing love and this amazing child,
Wow.
and you can never go back. It's like you go through the birth canal and you can never go back the other way. You're forever changed by
Kind
it.
of, it kind of personifies our awakening, doesn't it? I
Yes.
mean, and listening to you and reflecting on the ones I witnessed, because I was in
Mm.
awe. I was
Yeah.
like, I was almost in shock.
Yeah.
Uh, Something happened to me watching those births because I don't know how to explain it, but like, there's just something happened. Like my whole perception changed, but I wasn't her. So to me,
Mm.
listening to you, it's like the physical personification of a download
Yeah.
and embodiment all at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. And no one, like you could sit there and listen to women talk about it all day, but until you actually experience it, you can't fathom. So it's the embodiment of the experience that changes you,
Yeah.
because you can talk about it, you can talk to 100 women. I read books, I spoke to women, I went to birthing classes, but I wasn't prepared for the feeling of it actually happening when I was going through it. And you I remember it. I remember it clearly, but I don't fear it anymore.
Right.
So the second time I got pregnant, I mean, if women feared being pregnant and having a baby, you would only ever have one child. So you forget, you don't fear it. After you go through it, you go, okay, I did it once, I can do it again. And the second time I got pregnant, I wasn't afraid,
Hmm.
like I was with Juliet, because I didn't know what to experience, but not
Hmm.
with my second child.
I saw, for some reason, and there's no mistakes, I saw a video clip last night of Oprah Winfrey and um, Beyonce.
Yep.
And Oprah Winfrey said to her, I've never been a wife. I chose not to marry. And then led up to her question. And the first thing I noticed was the difference between someone who is a mother and a woman who's not in a
Mm-hmm.
man's world, even because Oprah, obviously went in there and broke those glass ceilings. And then nothing, I'm not speaking, negatively at all. I'm just observing. So I'm looking at it
Yeah.
going, wow, I've never really thought about that. So I started thinking about sisters and aunts, you know, and I immediately could see the difference between
Mm.
those that are a mother and those that are not. And I was like, wow, that's
Mm.
weird. And interesting enough, too, because there's always multiple meanings, right? And so she said to her, how does it feel to be a wife? I haven't married, but I hear men say, I'm doing this for my wife, or she is my wife. And you could tell Oprah couldn't relate. And, the first part of what I told you was enough of me for a download and information. I thought, wow, that's cool. That's a cool observation. I'll keep that in mind. And then Beyonce said to her, essentially, I love being a wife and a mother, but before you can be a wife, you create your own life for
Mm.
yourself. And I thought, wow, there it is. Like that's kind of personifying, the front edge of this. You could call it a movement or whatever you want to call it, but like the same thing that you were from a different generation, but the same thing that you were doing. She is actually exhibiting her personal sovereignty even within a sacred union, so to speak.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're a person first.
Hmm.
You're born into this world as a person first, as a human being first. And then you make a choice. You become a wife and a mother. They're choices. But I've never felt like I didn't have a identity or a personality. Even after I got married, I always had my own life. Um, and I don't know, I've just always had my own sovereignty. I've always had that. I've always had my own life. And when I became a wife, I knew that that was my choice. And so I never felt like I had lost myself, or um, because I knew that that was my choice to become a wife and become a mother. And so that became part of who I was
Right.
as a human. And but I never felt like I'd lost myself in those choices. I always felt like I was still me. And I think that's a good thing. I think that feeling that I didn't give up all of who I was to make those choices. I've always kept part of myself for me,
Right.
and having the husband that I do and having the children that I do respected that. It was
Yeah.
always there, and they knew that and they respected it, and that's always been the way in our family.
Yeah.
And so I've never regretted any of the choices that I've made. I It's been difficult. I've had difficult times. As you know, Spence and I nearly split up, and thankfully we worked out our problems and we didn't. But um, it was never about that. It was never about the fact that I'd lost myself, or felt like I made a bad move, or that I shouldn't have become a wife, or that I,
Yeah.
wasn't um, I wasn't walking a path that I really wanted to walk. I've always felt that I was walking a path that I'd chosen and that I was fine with that.
It sounds like you didn't over identify with any role or label, that you
Yes,
always kept the core of your multidimensionality
yes,
intact, and therefore these roles and identities that you took on in your human experience simply added to your
yeah,
multidimensionality rather than
that's
subtract,
described.
right?
Yeah,
That's a
perfectly described.
hmm,
Yes, that's exactly it. I've always walked in my life, walked through my path as myself,
hmm,
with myself intact.
hmm,
And I don't know why or how I've done that. It's just been part of who I am, that I've always protected that part of me. And it's like, you have that place in yourself where you live in, where your spirit lives. You
hmm,
have that part of, and it doesn't matter what happens to you in your along your path in life. That part has always stayed intact in me.
yeah,
I've always protected it and allowed it to be me.
yeah,
And yeah, and people have tried to uncover that and get in there and, you know manipulate it or whatever, or get me to decide things that weren't right for me, or, but I've never allowed that to happen. I've always protected that part of
yeah,
who I am. Yeah.
yeah. That's profound. That's profound to think. Seriously, no matter if we get lost or don't, it
Mm,
never it it's always there. We
mm,
just forget or lose sight of it, and
mm.
it's impenetrable.
Yeah,
It's impervious to everything. I guess that's in the micro. That's the in the
yeah.
within sense. That's the goddess. That's a god goddess, whatever. Um, so have you? So okay, like I know with what you just said, that I think, mm, you know, at the core, probably many women, you know, maybe there's some phases and things that happen trauma wise and such that, are built in to bring you back to that place and even be more connected to it. But in terms of the recent years, these last couple
Mm,
of years, as let's just say that if your household is a small picture of the whole,
mm,
you've obviously expanded your connection with yourself and
mm-hmm.
been presented with new choice points in a changing realm, and you've in essence chosen yourself. Have you seen, like at the local level of your household, have you seen the influence and ripples of your personal decision to choose yourself within your own field, which is your household, your kids, your husband, your marriage, your immediate family and friends or people that you interact with? Have you seen your influence of your
In my
decisions?
children, yes, and my husband, yes, 100%. Yes, because I'm always telling them, you have a choice. You choose what makes you happy. It's so difficult though for some people to choose themselves. It's really, really hard sometimes because it's so in opposition to what we're told in the 3D. It's difficult. You're seen as selfish.
Right.
You're seen as, particularly as a woman, you're seen as selfish if you choose yourself. So just giving that gentle reminder, like,
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice. You can choose in this situation. You always can,
Mm-hmm.
what's appropriate for you right in this moment. And constantly coming back to that knowledge that you're the choice point.
Mm-hmm.
You're the center of the circle. So you can navigate wherever you want to go because you have a choice. That that's it's so easy to forget that. It's very, very easy to forget to say, well, I have to do this or I have to do that. Well, no, you don't. You always have a choice.
Yeah.
You might look on the outside like you're being coerced into this area, and it might look like you're being selfish if you go in that direction. But at the end of the day, when you put your pillow on the head, your head on the pillow,
I put my pillow on my head
yeah.
to block out the light.
When you're closing your eyes to go to sleep
Yeah.
and you're with yourself, I mean, it always comes back to that for me is when I'm closing my eyes and I'm going to sleep at night.
Right. Right.
Am I
Yeah.
comforted with the decisions that I made that day?
Right.
Have I made the decisions that I can live with, that are right for me? You know, I haven't hurt anyone. I haven't, done anything wrong to anybody else. I've just made decisions that were right for me.
Right. Right.
And that's not selfish, because if I have the energy to wake up the next day and be happy, then I have more to give to the
Well,
world.
that's exactly right. It's nurturing. It's like a plant,
Mm,
I mean, if
yeah,
a plant can control the watering and it's going to then produce, you know, something like in that case, what is it? Oxygen, I
yeah,
mean, so, yeah, I mean, and again, this self-care, yeah. Okay. So like, even like, people will say to me, um, you can hold space when you do these shows.
yeah,
Well, if you go back, like all of us, and you look at the evolution of Soul Speaks 5D, it wasn't always that way. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Right. Yeah,
But
right.
it was not through the instruction of from the feminine. It was from the guidance of the feminine that, in this case, was in the external Morgan, just showing me what I couldn't see because that part of me
Yeah,
was suppressed, no different than what's been suppressed in the world. So there's this, uh, this that was okay in my best interest, but it also serves in the Trinity energy equally outside of
right.
me, which is what you're talking about. So
Yeah,
if I go back to the situation that I was talking about earlier with people messaging me and emails, and I went through this whole thing of self-judgment and
mm,
and even like externalizing it. Oh, those people, or that person won't leave me alone, to I'm just not going to say anything.
yeah, yeah,
Because I'm not saying it's the right answer, but what it has brought, what has actually come has, and I believe this is the same guidance of the feminine that had been suppressed within me as a reflection of the outer world.
mm,
Uh, that what's happened is I'm okay with it. I don't get charged if somebody says something to me that's along the lines of what you're saying, like maybe you're being
yeah,
selfish, even though they may not use those words. And what's happened is I'm not getting messages anymore.
yeah,
I'm getting 5 a day as opposed to
yeah,
50. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about with the show. Like, this started from the, um, would you call it? Like the feminine energy in all forms taking back that I want to say like independence of the soul.
yeah,
Like the sovereignty to me isn't big enough, and but more than that, what are the ripples of it? And now to
yeah,
me, it just feels like somebody threw a giant boulder into a big lake, and it just went, And
yeah,
so all these narratives are playing out, and we're trying to like, oh my God, this is there and that's there, but no, there's just this this tsunami that's coming from a single place that's circular in motion. So everything's being affected. So I
yeah.
can
So the
I can
quality of your show is now feeling the effects of that, the quality of your
Mhm.
the
Well,
way you show
it's
up in your
I
flow.
think what's and so I when people say to me something like that, and I do say it sometimes, but I always want to say it, which is it's not what you're seeing. You're
Mm,
actually seeing maybe my masculine was a part of the attraction, but what you're actually seeing is my feminine.
yeah, right.
Because who listens if you pick a household? Who listens? Who holds space?
Mm,
Who doesn't necessarily want to be front stage? So these are
yeah,
qualities that are not to be diminished. These are actually strengths that come in a softer form that the world is starting to get acquainted with, and it's changing the entire landscape of everything.
yeah,
That's why I was asking you about within your own household. Like, do you
mm,
still do things the same way as as a family unit? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
everything. Like who cooks, who cleans, who takes out the trash, who drives to the store, who does the shopping, who like I can see where everything would change. And of course, especially having, another feminine that you have that type of bond with, which is such an important part of the world. And I've told Morgan for years, and I have a lot of sisters and aunts, that I don't see anything stronger than the bond between a mother and a daughter. Like there's
yeah,
something going on there that I can't even tap into or relate to.
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't even understand it myself. It just is the way it is between me and Juliet.
Hmm.
It's and I love it. She's my best friend.
I can tell.
And
I can
yeah,
tell.
and we get on really well. Like even when she was really little, like I used to say, I really like who she is as a person. Like I like her, regardless of the fact that she's my child. I
Right.
like her as a person. I like who she was. When she came out as a baby, I just had that connection with her, even though she grew in me and she was like she was in my womb and everything. She came out and I just instantly knew that I liked her. Because you don't. I mean, it's funny to think about, but as a mother, when you have your children, because I didn't necessarily get along very well with my mum. I think I've told you that she was a very stern woman,
Hmm.
and when so it was something that it was like, I wonder if I'll like her. I wonder if I'll get along with my child. But when she came out, it was like, I really like who she is. She's great. And then that's just grown over time, like the older she gets. And we say it to each other all the time. Gosh, you're my mate. Like I love talking to you and I love spending time with you and we get on really well and like we finish each other's sentences and I can look at her and she'll know what I'm thinking and things like that. Like it's lovely. It's just really, really lovely. And I didn't have that with my mum.
Hmm.
I didn't have that with her. So to have that with Juliet's a precious, precious gift.
Yeah. That's yeah. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like that
Mm.
best friend thing. And I'm not saying that they're all that way, like with your mother and then with Juliet. But what I've noticed is that obviously women communicating with women, it's a totally different language than men communicating with men.
Yes.
And I've noticed that and maybe it's because I come from a very patriarchal culture, which I didn't really align with.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I didn't was innate as a child, but then as I got older, being labeled that which I was born into, like I was being stereotyped, right? So then
Yeah, right.
I would look at my
Yeah.
sisters or my aunts, and I'd go, they're speaking on a language, and I can kind of like tap into that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm not in the flow of it, but I can kind of like, oh wow, there's something intelligent going there. And what I noticed was, and I don't know if this is true or not, but women's connections are more extreme no matter what extreme they go to.
Yes, that's so
Okay.
true.
Men
Yeah.
are like, say, in this middle gray area that's
Yeah.
less
So
substan
true.
it's like less substantial and
Yeah.
more superficial.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
had more, yeah, oh, totally. I had more of a connection with my dad. Me and my
Mm-hmm.
dad got on really well. But he had a very, very strong connection with his mother.
Mm.
Um, he was the eldest of three boys, Italian, so very similar. It was a very
Right.
patriarchal culture, and he grew up in he grew up in Italy in a small village in Calabria during World War II.
Wow.
His father went off to war, and so he grew up with his mum and two younger brothers. So he became the man of the house
Right.
when his father was at war. And so they were very poor during the war. They only had rations, and that, so they had to grow their own food. And he was in charge of growing the food and bringing the food home and tending to the little market garden they had at home. And um, so he became very close to his mum. And when his father came back from the war, he became a very, well, he was already a tyrant, but became worse when he came back. And so he was very hard on my father because my father had that feminine side, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had that really strong connection to his mother. And so when I came along and we had that connection, he and I think that was what made the rift between me and my mum, because my dad and I had such a strong connection with each other, and I think it made her jealous.
Mm.
I know that sounds horrible, but I think from growing up in the house and the conversations that I had with my mum and dad, that's where it was going. And um, so I think it can happen between a man and a woman. I think that that's possible. But I think that connection, because that connection missing between me and my mum, it really was felt by
Right.
me.
Right.
It was really, really deeply felt by me. So having the connection with my daughter has filled that for me.
Right. It's funny how
Has
that.
Yeah, that was what was missing. But I definitely feel like there can be a deeper connection between a father and a daughter.
Yeah.
There can be a deeper connection because I've experienced it myself. But he was definitely very similar to you in the way that he had that femininity in
Mm-hmm.
him, and he could relate to the feminine very deeply because he had that connection with his mum. Because
Yeah.
his father was terrible tyrant, terrible, terrible
Well,
tyrant.
that's an amazing story. That's fascinating, and I can relate to. I've often said this, like, I know from my relationship with my daughters, and one of them I don't even doesn't speak to me today, because we all have our histories, right? And
Yeah,
but still, even regardless of that, and Morgan will tell you, when when she's around me, she just melts. I mean,
yeah,
there is. I'm lucky to have that, so I can relate to that. But listening to your story is very fascinating because even like your situation with your mother, uh, or with his father, these are the byproducts of the programming, are the
yes,
situations that create the programming, and then also to see how the universe brings everything back into balance. So, like if I look at your father, uh, let's start with the grandfather.
mm,
Now, I love to research. I love history, and I've been watching, not to get a charge, just because I pick up code, watching videos on World War One and World War Two, but not just videos that show what happened, actually that
mm,
are talking about the human journey.
yeah,
And I am absolutely blown away. I had to turn it off. World War One. It was a meat grinder. It
yeah,
was incredible. Like what these men went through that survived was mind blowing. Like
yeah. What they
the shells would be going off for so long. Like I'm talking like 2-3 days nonstop. Millions of
mm,
shells that they would literally lose their minds because of the
mm,
noise. So you hear about
mm,
shell shock and all that stuff. So imagine being your grandfather who's
Yeah.
already been imprinted, who comes back from this hell,
Yeah.
and then what happens? He doesn't even know, because he's a product of the patriarchal and he's in a man's body. He doesn't
Mm.
even know how to turn within himself
Yeah.
because no one's ever shown him that.
Yeah.
And if he does that, he's already, deprecating himself to an
Mm.
intense level of judgment. So
Yeah.
now what does he do? He projects it. And then you might throw in some alcohol. And then there's some physical violence.
Yeah.
And then the polarities just get broader. Now you are, indirectly brought into it. You marry this man. You have your own story, and yet now you have a daughter. And it
Yeah.
looks like the pendulum, right? It just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So like you hear something like that and you realize that no matter what narrative we attach to or program that we are for lack of a better word, a victim or unconscious of, that there's always the middle ground, and we're
Mm-hmm.
never going to get too far away from source or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's always swinging back and forth, back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And Juliet and
fascination.
I are a product of that.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because you hear a lot about people saying, well, and I'm not saying it's not true, but that like, for instance, people like us born into certain families that we chose in order to heal the ancestral
Mhm.
traumatic lineage.
Yes.
And that in itself, if you look at people as energy, we're the force that brings it back to the middle or magnetize
Yeah.
it to the middle, or however you want to say it. So
Yeah. That's right.
it's a I think another thing that's really interesting to me is to look at the era of World War One and really look at it, and then look at two, and then look at the things that have come after, and
Yes.
you can actually see, or at least I can, or at least I feel I can, the the trajectory of what you're representing today. You can see
Yes.
where people are going. We're not going to do that anymore. And then
Yeah.
it goes a little further. Oh no, we're not going to do that anymore. That's why this Ukraine thing is kind of interesting, because what's the difference between that and Libya and Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia? What's the difference? Nothing. But there is a
Yeah.
difference because people are going, I don't think we're going to buy this time,
Yeah.
regardless of what's being presented. So it's interesting. And again, I feel when at the end of the day that it's the mother influence. The mother has
Yeah.
walked in the door. The kids have been on their own all day. The house is a mess. Everything's in disarray. And she's like, you know what? This is over. And we're going to
Yeah.
bring this back to where it needs to be. And
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Yeah. It's a reflection, like the macro and the micro. It's as above, so below. It's all a reflection of each other.
Mm, mm.
And oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I had something on the tip of my tongue there, and it's gone.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's all
I went
right.
on.
No,
I
it
just,
just
I
it
really,
wasn't you.
I really enjoy talking to you and to
Oh, I enjoyed talking to you
Juliet.
too.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's refreshing to get a snapshot of a household that has sustained itself, which in this
Mm.
day and age means not only have you uh, upheld the borders of your collaboration, but you've actually expanded it, because that's the only way that any individual, any couple, any household, any organization can, for lack of a better word, survive the transition we call ascension, is by accepting and allowing all the additional frequencies that have presented themselves, and actually, instead of pushing stuff away and separating,
Yeah.
actually coming together in collaboration and transforming as a unit. And
Because it's all about projection, right? You're not when you learn to stop projecting onto each other,
mhm.
and it's not like because there's pressure coming in. There's pressure coming in from outside. There's pressure coming in from all areas of life in society.
Yeah.
You've got financial pressures, you've got society pressures, you've got, the television screaming at you, Ukraine, COVID, whatever. Um, and it's very easy to start imploding to each other and saying,
Yeah.
look, stop misbehaving because I just can't handle it anymore. There's
Right.
just too much. There's just too much. And now you're screaming at me, and now we can't pay our bills and you're not going to work, and you're projecting all that pressure that you're feeling from outside onto each
Yeah.
other as a family.
Yeah.
When you stop doing that, when you start to realize, well, no, you're not creating the pressure.
Right.
You're just acting like an 11-year-old.
Right.
And you're not creating the pressure because you've just lost your job because of the outside, what's happening outside. So you can't go to work. And you start to realize, well, no, that's not your fault. That's not your fault. I'm feeling pressure because of this, and this, or whatever. And you stop projecting it, and you start working on yourself, and you start to say, well, I need something here. I need something for myself because I'm starting to feel stressed, and I'm projecting that stress onto you. And you start giving that to yourself because that person's not responsible for you.
Mm-mm.
You're responsible for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to explore, right, what is it that I need here? And you start giving that to yourself and giving yourself permission to receive those things, because it's difficult to receive sometimes, especially when you're stressed out. And then you start to see each other for who you are instead of the projection that you're putting onto that person. And that's when love can grow.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when love can thrive in a family.
Right. And yeah, because I think this is very good information, because I really feel like that you can even look at the communities and see there's not as much projection as there used to be.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so you start to look at things and you go, you don't see it as a projection anymore.
Yes.
I see it. I go, that's a program. Now, it could be from
Yes.
me. It could be from someone outside of me. And I don't have to know the program. There may come a time when I have to, but that has to do with me. Why am I
Yeah.
seeing this program that I formerly saw as a projection over and over again? Okay, so obviously that's me. Why am I seeing all these people messaging me and emailing me, and why does I keep seeing it? So what did I do? I know there's a program involved with me or them or both or something. I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah.
And so
right.
now they go away. So sometimes I guess what I'm saying is, if I'm looking at things as a projection, I'm not going to really gain any ground. If
Yeah,
I
right.
say that's not a projection, it's a program, which means it's nothing personal. Okay?
Yeah,
Now,
right.
now I can pull in and just sit there, because that's something I've never done before. and now if I do it, this works, because like Morgan again guided me, showed me this years ago, and it was really funny because I was traveling around the country, and everyone knew I was hooked up with her, and I'm pretty open about how much I love her, even back in the day, and
Yeah.
and I would get these offers of, let me help you, come stay in my house, and these women are hitting on me, right? And I had this
Right.
and I had this one explosion one time. Like, she was just about to come over for the second time. We would get married that year, and I had this explosion because it happened with two women the same night. Like, it all came
Right.
out. It all came out. And I'm the type, I'll call it out. And I called them
Yeah.
straight out, like, and I was like, fuck off, and whatever. So I ended up having this eruption, and she had tried to tell me this, right? And I didn't understand it. And again, here's that language that the women are privy to, which is what I was
Yeah,
referring
right.
to. And so she's like, it's you. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not. I don't have any desire for infidelity. Okay. And she said, no, it's active in you. So she guided me, showed me how to neutralize that within myself, which meant that I had to accept and be open to the fact that it was me, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
once I did it, what happens? They all go away,
Yeah.
right? So this is, I think, like the what's been lacking because it's been a patriarch, and again, not to be confused with the masculine, because the masculine's distorted, feminine got distorted, but the main character, we'll say, is the man. Well,
Mm.
if he's not in touch with that intuitive, which he can only be in touch with through his feminine,
Mm.
then he's not going to be open to the magic. He's only going to be dealing with the logic and the rational and the straight lines of a patriarchal realm. But
Yeah.
once he sees the magic, which you can't explain, okay, then you can start adopting it. And I think that's what's
Yeah.
happening to the world. People are starting to take
Yeah.
stock in themselves first and foremost. And I think it's happened because the queen of the house has made a
Yeah.
decision this time to evolve, right?
Yeah. Yep. Because when she's doing it,
Yeah.
she's the one who stepped up first.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Because I think that's what's happened. I think the feminine stepped up first.
Right.
That's what I've seen over the past 2 years anyway.
Right.
Everybody follows.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
And like what you said in the beginning is that that's what we're seeing in families. And that's what we're seeing in my family. When the female steps up, when the mother figure steps up first, the feminine, everybody goes, "Oh, what is she doing?
Exactly.
We better fall into line. We better follow because we're going to be left behind."
That's right. You know,
Yeah.
we have, I'm sure Morgan has a lot more than I do, but I'll have people come to me and say, you know, I'm in a relationship, and it'll be a woman, or no, not always a woman, but most of the time it's a woman. But and they'll be like, I'm in this relationship. You know, as in all relationships, you hit these certain, you know, you start hitting your head on the ceiling, and you know the chaos before the growth or the separation, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call it.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, Morgan told me a long time ago about these relationships because it's not really my specialty, right? This would be what I
Mhm.
do or whatever. And she said nothing will happen until she steps into her power.
Yeah.
And like everything else, as time goes on, you start to see the depth of these very simple, profound truths. And so I've watched it over and over, and I'll see the woman will step into her power, and either he, through his love, will match her,
Yeah.
right? And you know, or at least head that direction, because I really believe that's all it takes. It just takes the desire, which is fueled by the love. And again, we're talking both physical couples, and we're talking the energetics of the realm. That
Yes.
masculine energy, through its love of her, will
Mm.
then keep the expansion going. Or, as we've seen in many cases, for ourselves individually, when the light gets thrown on us, it can't be me, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Right.
we live, you know, to find that truth another day, because
Yeah.
eventually we all end up in the same place, right?
Yeah. And I think that stepping in, that like you talked about stepping into the feminine, stepping into her power, that that is embodiment. That's all
Yeah.
that is.
Yes.
That's all that is a woman embodying herself.
Right.
It's coming into her body, accepting herself for who she is, not taking any more shit from
Right.
anyone,
Right.
um, and just because. And the only way you can do that is to know who you are, to
Exactly.
to really know who you are, and to know who you are is a process of embodiment and coming into your body and knowing how it feels to make choices. I think in being in your body, knowing who you are, that's it. That video you did with Jason Estes, The Body as a Child,
Mm-hmm.
that was huge for me. That was massively important to me because that helped me understand what it means to be in your body and how to communicate with your body
Mm-hmm.
and having that relationship. We're coming full circle now, right back to the beginning of our conversation about health, about vitality,
Mm-hmm.
about, um, you know, giving yourself the permission to have good food, looking after your temple, your body, and communicating with your body and listening to it. And because for me, when I make decisions, I get a gut feeling straight away. So when I'm faced with a situation and or a choice, I get a yes or a no or nothing.
Right.
And the nothingness is okay, you need to wait to make a decision.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned about myself over the past few years. So I'll get a feeling in my body. I get a gut feeling, yes, no, straight away. I'm very discerning like that.
Right.
But I didn't know that about myself
Right.
before I started to have a relationship with my body.
Right.
And that's all about embodiment. That's all about getting to know who I am as a person. And I think part of stepping into your power includes that communication with your body and who you are as a person.
Yeah. That's right.
Um, and that journey, like that, making the decision to make that journey into yourself is part of stepping into your power
Yeah.
as a woman.
As
And
everybody.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when a woman does that, when a woman gives herself permission to do that, I mean, we've been disconnected through the ages. I mean, we were burned as witches and our intuition, we were told was our imagination, and, we all that disconnect over the centuries
Right.
has disconnected us from ourselves.
Right.
We don't have mothers and grandmothers and ancestors who taught us how to do it because they were all burned at the stake. So I think we've come full circle as a gender back into our own intuition and back into our bodies.
That's right.
And yeah, I think that's a really, really important part of stepping into our power as women and as a society and as human beings.
Well, it's the change. It's the it's the accelerator of the change. It's the
Mm,
it's the core of the whole thing, right? And
yeah,
like you hear
yeah,
people say, uh, she will be seen for what she is.
mm,
And somebody had said that to me a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm seeing it more like she will not be seen for what she is until she sees herself for what she is.
yeah,
And
that's
you
right.
talking about embodiment, I know every woman doesn't bear a child, but every woman carries the seasons of the universal in their body
Yeah,
with the menstrual cycle, right?
that's right.
And then in terms of like and how crazy is it that we can be in this awakening awareness that we are truly what we are, that we're not just this body, but the message coming through in the most literal degree in the body. Like the body
Yeah,
is the last bastion of challenge or initiation. So when you look at her and why is this happening, how is this happening, and what you're saying, she carries a universe
yeah,
in her body.
yeah,
So you're like, okay, wait a minute, like how much more literal can you be? You know, and that's what's so amazing about it is that it's literally the physical in 99.99, literally the physical woman through what seems like a very nominal component of the overall earth. One woman in one space that's actually doing what you're doing, and that's actually what's doing it, right?
yeah.
That's what's making it happen, and that's just crazy. Like that's just
Yes.
like no matter what's out there, no matter where you are, it's and I'm not trying to make light of it, or make it so oversimplified, but it's like when she turns that, right, it's done. Doesn't matter if there's food out there. It doesn't matter if there's a flood out there. It doesn't matter anything. She just turned this thing on, and it affected everything. So it's
and that's conversations like this that are so important, because that's what turns it on.
I agree. I mean, yeah. I mean, we were shown through Morgan's channel in 2018. This is the platform for the voices or of the Mother Goddess.
Yeah,
her many voices, and like you see in these communities, 75 to 90% are women for a reason.
Yeah.
Since I've been in them, and now they've more men coming in. Now the men that you're seeing come in that are actually reaching people are like the guy that was just on here, or the one before that.
Right.
They're exhibiting the code of their feminine being welcomed, supported, nurtured within themselves as a result of, of what's occurring, or seems to be occurring, for all of us. It's exciting time. It's an exciting time to be involved. I'm really anxious to see what's going to happen, because I feel like we're in the middle of our trigger or transmission, or you know what I mean? That moment we have, like you said, you don't always have good days. I don't have good days. When you're in the middle of that and you're going, because we've done it so many times, and you're going, well, this is shit. But I know that on the other side of this, it's going to be great. And that time is not taking as long. And, so why would it be any different in the...
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, it's the birthing, isn't it? At the end, you're going to have the beautiful baby.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you said, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Far out.
The birthing experience is not a great experience, but what you get at the end of it, it's great.
That's it. That's it right there. We're that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, led by y'all. So, I look forward to seeing you again, and
yes,
both of you, individually or together.
Thank you for a great conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoy speaking with you, and everything here is, for me, it's a session, so it's an honor to be here. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you for your continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this every day, because there's no way we could do it. It's just no way, so I'm very thankful for that. And I'm really happy that you and those like you are showing up. So spread the word. Spread the word. All right.
Will do.
Take care. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you very much.
Okay.
See you next time.
Okay.